and smash that subscribe button. Turn on notifications for whenever we go live here or post a video. This is your week 5 kickoff show. I am one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my faithful co-host Scotty. You can find him on Twitter at Scotty Drown. My man, happy Sunday. And how's it going?
It is going very well. Happy Sunday, man. Coming off the big Saturday. Obviously, the Phillies get the W down there in Atlanta. So we're feeling really good today. But yeah, ready to get to the NFL action, get to the NFL slate, and hope the Eagles can end up 5-0 after all of this. But
yes,
that's for a later show. But nonetheless, I'm happy for the slate. We got some decent games on today. A few games to look forward to. So I'm pretty excited about that as well, man.
Before we get into the slate of games, and obviously we'll do what we did week 1, and obviously, guys, we'll be back weekly Thursdays and Sundays here to make our picks for you every week. Now that Scotty has tied the knot and is back from his honeymoon, we're full go again. But so before we get into our picks today, what did you think of that Thursday night matchup between the Commanders and the Bears? Because I thought this was one of the more interesting Thursday night matchups we had, because here's the thing. On paper, we get so riled up and so worked up about Thursday night football matchups, and this game's going to suck and yada, yada, yada. This, besides being an Eagles fan, and don't get me wrong, obviously the Lions upsetting Chiefs, but this was right up there for best Thursday night game of the year so far. There was a lot of action. Obviously, Justin Fields and the Bears, DJ Moore, 230 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. They were unbelievable. And I think that's the one thing I just really took away. Well, there are 2 things I took away. Kudos to Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears, because like we said on the kickoff show that last Thursday, at some point you just have to find a way to win the game. At some point, regardless of help, regardless of coaching, regardless of whatever, you have to find a way to just win a game. And they were on a 14-game losing streak coming into Thursday night. So he was able to do that. He balled out. He looked really good. And the Commanders, it makes no sense, man. That's why this league is so funny, and it's week to week and matchups, whatever. The Commanders basically played their Super Bowl last week and almost came away with a win in Philly. And then on a short week, come out and Sam Howell looks like that. It was a very, very weird game for the Washington Commanders at home. I did not expect for them to get smacked in the mouth like that.
Yeah, they did. They got smacked right in the mouth. It looked like they were sleepwalking coming into this game, and throughout the game, it looked like they were sleepwalking. And it is funny, man. A lot of people attributing it to the short week for the Commanders, but the Bears were operating on a short week too, right? And they came out fired up. They were an 0-4 team. They come out and not just beat you, but they beat you by 20, right? 3 scores. So it was an embarrassing effort, I thought, from the Commanders and from an NFC East divisional opponent that did take us to the overtime. I think it's just one of those things. You look at that game with the Eagles and Commanders, it's just a divisional game, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, the Commanders got really up for that matchup, thought they could be the first ones to knock the Eagles off, and maybe their attention wasn't ever on the Bears. So that's exactly what it looked like. I will say with the Commanders, something that I saw from the Eagles game to the Bears game, they can't defend the deep ball for anything. No. Like if you can throw whoever out there, throw a go route, and you're going to score a touchdown against the Commanders. Doesn't matter which corner is on them. It doesn't.
Their secondary can't tackle in the open field either.
They can't tackle. Yeah, it's bad, man. So you saw DJ Moore go for his best game of his career, 8 receptions, 230 yards.
And I feel like so many of his receptions were like comeback, like 10, 12-yard comeback routes that he just pivots towards the sideline or cuts it back towards the middle of the field, and it's a broken tackle, arm slips over his shoulder, and goodbye. You know what I mean? His last touchdown was exactly that, and I feel like that's where a lot of his production was.
Look at Justin Fields out here, man. 4 touchdowns again in this game, 282 passing yards, no turnovers. That was a huge thing in this game. And all of a sudden he's leading the league in passing touchdowns this season. So kudos to Justin Fields, kudos to that offense, and kind of getting it together over the last 2 weeks to put up some decent numbers. We just got to keep seeing more, right? I'm not going to sit here and hop on this train. But we need to keep seeing more from Justin Fields and that Chicago Bears offense. And then Maybe we will get somewhere, though. These are good signs. These are pointing in the right direction. I'll say that.
Yeah, my applause ends there. Like you broke a 14-game losing streak. Congratulations, but the hype train stops there.
Gotta
we'll
win
see
some
more
games.
moving forward.
Yeah.
But I think before we get to today's slate, that's the last thing, man. Like we sit here as an Eagles fan and we talk about, the offense and Jalen Hurts maybe struggling the first week or two of the season, and then obviously him and AJ Brown have a discussion on Thursday Night Football on the sideline, and the cameras catch it and make it into this thing that it's not. But all of a sudden, what did the Eagles come out the next 2 weeks and do? Get AJ Brown the ball.
Yes, sir.
Look at DJ. Look, at some point, it's just about getting your best players, your best playmakers the ball. And that's what he was able to do on Thursday night and exploit those mismatches. And yeah, man, I thought it was a good performance from Chicago. It was a letdown spot for the Commanders, and this league will never, ever disappoint, because just when you think you got it figured out.
Talk about what they were saying before the game on that Amazon broadcast, by the way. I didn't want to let that slip by, because I think it was Ryan Fitzpatrick that said, look at the Commanders right now, man. They're 2-2. They can go out and do all this, become 5-2 in 3 weeks. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves, right?
Exactly.
And that goes to show you,
talking
man.
About playoffs.
It goes to show you, while people sit there and talk down on the Eagles just for getting each and every win that they can. They're 4-0. They haven't lost a game. But then for the Commanders, it's, take care of this and you'll be 5-2 in 3 weeks. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, nothing should be taken for granted in this league. Wins are wins. And these are NFL level opponents that we are playing each and every week. So I think that's something to be said there. You can't forget, even if it's a bad opponent, what it takes to win in the NFL, man.
I agree. Let's get into this slate today. Obviously, there is a game going on right now. Is it in London or is it in Germany? I keep forgetting where this Bills Jags game.
I thought it was in London, but
I think it's London. I think so.
Let me see here, because
I have a question. By the way, why the hell did they schedule Jacksonville for back-to-back Sundays in London?
I thought that was interesting, man. Yeah, they're in London. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So they are in London. Interesting. Yeah, they did go back to back. So that's like, and mind you, they do say that Jacksonville is basically like a home team overseas, just because they're always over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is interesting, man, that you say that, because it didn't like recollect with me until you said that. But yeah, they played back to back weeks. They played the Falcons last week in London, and then this week.
And the Bills are about to get their points right back.
How's that fair, man? You know what I mean? I don't understand how that's fair. Like,
it's really weird. If I was them, I don't like. What do you do even if you're them? Like, yeah, I'm sure it's a cool experience. You can travel. Do a bunch of different things over there. But like, when you come back 3 weeks later, what's your body going to feel like? What's your sleep schedule going to be like? That's jacked up. But yeah, man. But the Bills obviously just scored. They made it 11-7, and now Jacksonville, within literally less than 40 seconds, are at Buffalo's 12-yard line, 3rd and 2. So they're looking to add on to that lead before half. Hopefully hold them to a field goal there for you. But let's get into our Week 5 pick'ems. Basically, what we're going to do, it's going to be like a snake-style draft back and forth. I'll start us off this week with the first overall pick. And I will go with the Miami Dolphins over the New York Giants.
That would have been mine.
This one's pretty simple to me, man. I believe it's the largest spread of the afternoon. Yeah. Miami at home after getting their shit rocked against the Buffalo Bills last week. And the New York Giants are just they're a mess right now, man. Yeah. Obviously, Brian Dable and Daniel Jones. People want to talk about AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts having a conversation. Brian Dable is a very animated head coach, and I'm not saying it's a problem at all, but you can tell there's a lot of frustration in New York. This season is not starting out the way they wanted it to. The defense can't stop a nosebleed, and they can't move the football. They cannot sustain drives, man. Even, starting last week and starting against the Cowboys, they've had it multiple times where they drive down the field, they look good, the play action's going. Daniel Jones picks up a first down with his legs. Yeah. It looks good, and then all of a sudden, they stall. They get stuffed on a 4th down attempt. They miss a field goal, whatever the case may be. And it's like they can never recover
Yeah.
from that mistake, and they're behind the rest of the way. I think Tua and Miami are going to probably drop close to 40 on the New York Giants. Obviously, Mike McDaniel is not one to take his foot off the gas, especially coming, like I said, off of that bad loss to a division rival on the road last week. You know he's going to be looking to make headlines again this week, and I think they will.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. This would have been my first pick as well. So good pick there. Dolphins coming off 48-20 loss to the Buffalo Bills, divisional rival.
After dropping 70 the week before.
They're going to be frustrated, right? They're going to come out here and score the rock on the Giants. And to your point, when things start to go south for the Giants, they go really south, and I think it could get really bad. With that being said, against the Miami Dolphins' explosive offense, Daniel Jones got sacked 11 times against Seattle Seahawks last week, man. Seattle Seahawks do not have like a premier defensive line.
No.
Like, they are good defensively. They have a good unit, but that defensive line does not have a single premier pass rusher on it. And they got to that man 11 times last week. That is bad news for the Giants. It's bad news for Daniel Jones' confidence, bad news for DeBoer's confidence in Daniel Jones. Maybe they get Saquon back. Maybe that helps a little bit today, but I do see the Dolphins running away with this one, man. I'm with you there. So for my pick, so number 2 pick of these games today, I'm going to go with the Bengals bounce back game. I'm going out here on a limb, but nonetheless, I do feel like this is a safe spot for me. Bengals only a 3-point favorite, and I do understand it. I think that's more than fair with the way the Bengals have played so far this season. But at the end of the day, they are going against the Arizona Cardinals. They're going against Joshua Dobbs. It is time to get a fucking W if you're Cincinnati. You just got embarrassed by the Tennessee Titans, who, mind you, Tennessee Titans are not world beaters, man, but they beat the world out of the Bengals 27-3, man. And that is not a good look. You talked about DJ Moore earlier and that A.J. Brown. We talked about it on Thursday as well, man. Jamar Chase, anytime touchdown, that's got to be the best bet of that game, in my opinion. He obviously had some complaints after the last few games. It's time to get him the ball. No T. Higgins as well.
Yeah, no, that's huge, man. That's actually a great bet. I might have to lock that one in with you.
Yeah.
But obviously on Thursday, you know, when we got into our week 4 takeaways, or through 4 weeks, the Cincinnati Bengals were a hot topic, man, because there's issues right now, and you know, a lot of people want to chalk it up to Joe Burrow's calf, his hamstring, you know, that injury slowing him down. It's not that. When I watch Cincinnati Bengals,
not just that, at least.
No, they have a Zach Taylor problem. They have an offensive play calling problem. They have a check. The amount of checkdowns I've seen to Joe Mixon this year is astonishing. And I've only watched a handful of plays, but like, it just feels like every time that game comes on the red zone, anytime you flip to, you know, CBS, when that's the game on, it's check down. They cannot get anything vertical down the field, which is ridiculous when you're talking about Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, all of those weapons. Now, obviously no T. Higgins today, but regardless, they should be able to come away with a win, man, against the Joshua Dobbs-led team who, listen, I get it, you know, beat the Dallas Cowboys and, you know, kind of stuck with the 49ers in a sense a little bit on the road last week. But the Bengals had to find a way to come out and win this game. They're the much, much better team. One team is arguably the worst team in the league. Yeah. And the Bengals have Super Bowl aspirations. Figure it out. Today's a great day to figure it out. With my second pick, I am going to take another home favorite. I'm going to take the Detroit Lions over the Carolina Panthers. I think the Lions are playing very, very good football to start this year. Obviously, we were interested to see how this roller coaster would go, right? Week 1, you come out in Arrowhead, you upset the Kansas City Chiefs when they're, you know, dropping their banner that night. It was a great win, but you follow that up with a shootout home loss to Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. And it's like, all right, who are the Detroit Lions? Are they actually going to take advantage of Aaron Rodgers' departure and you know, take control of this NFC North division? Well, they've done that over the last 2 weeks. They've looked really, really good on offense. Their defense, regardless of the injuries, is still playing well. Aiden Hutchinson's a monster. I think that they win pretty easily at home today.
Yeah, I love that pick as well. That would have came in the same exact spot that I have it at here. I'm with you there. What I would say about the Lions, man, and why I have them as like the third ranked game or third ranked lock of the week for me. They've lived up to expectations so far. I think that's the biggest thing. They had very high expectations coming into this season. No Aaron Rodgers in that division. question marks around the Vikings, right? Packers, we know what's up there. And then the Bears, of course, the Bears started out 0-4. So we had high expectations for the Lions. They've been able to show and live up to those expectations the last few weeks. And I like what I'm seeing, man. David Montgomery had 3 or 4 touchdowns last week.
Yeah.
And I was questioning it because they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in the first half of the first round.
Still very odd to me.
It's odd, but at least I saw Jahmyr Gibbs is doubtful for today, so maybe he was injured. That would explain it a little bit more. My next pick is actually going to be the Chiefs against the Minnesota Vikings. They're 3.5-point favorites the last time I checked on that. My main thing here, the Minnesota Vikings are frauds, man. I'm going to keep saying it as it plays out throughout this season. But they're a team that needs to start selling. They don't need to give Justin Jefferson this monster contract or make him the highest paid wide receiver ever because they're not going anywhere. And they're going to realize that shortly. They're going to have to start selling pieces. But aside from that, the Swifties are 2-0, man, since Taylor Swift joined the crew. So I think it's time, right? They got to keep it going with Taylor Swift in the building. I'm literally kidding. I do not give a shit about Taylor Swift. I really don't. I actually think she's a fraud because she's supposed to be an Eagles fan. But nonetheless, the thing that I'm looking at this game in this game today, which is another funny stat, is that Patrick Mahomes has never played against the Minnesota Vikings. So
really,
it's their turn to get victimized by Patrick Mahomes.
That's true.
It has to happen to everybody. They haven't gotten the treatment yet. So it is their turn today. I am going with the Chiefs over the Vikings there, though.
Right, especially coming off an ugly win, right? Like they got the job done on the road. I get that, but Patty did not look like himself. Both of his interceptions were so poorly underthrown. Like I've never seen mistakes like that from Patrick Mahomes, maybe ever. And he did that again, albeit against a great defense in the New York Jets, but you still can't underthrow those balls. And, it came down to the wire against Zach Wilson and company. So, it's a win is a win, as we know here in Philadelphia, but the Chiefs are definitely looking for a bounce back spot against the fraudulent Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings, as you so kindly pointed out there. My next pick, I'm going to go to the AFC North, and I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens on the road over the Pittsburgh Steelers. We talked about the Cincinnati Bengals. We talked about a couple other teams, the New York Giants that are having struggles on offense. This Steelers team is atrocious on that side of the ball, man. And you just feel it. They're borderline 500. They're all right. They're 2-2 through the first 4 games. It's whatever. And then you watch them get smacked against a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach, essentially, in DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans last week. That should have been a W for the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, man. Let's call it what it is. Like, even if Kenny Pickett and company can't find a way to move the ball, there's no way that defense should have given up in the high 20s against the Houston Texans last week. So that should have been a win. It wasn't. They have issues. Matt Canada is on the hot seat right now as the play caller in Pittsburgh. And it just feels like the Ravens haven't even really hit their stride, man. They had a good win against the backup quarterback in Cleveland last week. Obviously, they lost to Gardner Minshew and company at home. They battled injuries. They get Marlon Humphrey back today on the defensive side of the ball. I think the Ravens win this game fairly easily, I think.
I do. I love that pick as well. It actually goes along with my order. So far, everything has gone in order for the most part here for me. I'm with you on the Ravens. And really, it's just about that Kenny Pickett in the offense, man. I just don't trust it at all. And to your point, I do think it's time for Baltimore to kind of turn it on in a sense. The same way that I'm kind of looking at the Eagles right now. Now, mind you, Eagles are 4-0. Baltimore, they're in a different scene right now. But these are two teams that I feel like just haven't clicked on all cylinders just yet. The offense and defense playing well in the same game. That's something I'm looking for with the Ravens today. They can take control of that division. They're 2-0 in the division right now. Have a chance to go up 3-0 early in the season. That's a huge mark for them. But really, the question mark just comes beside Pickett in that Steelers offense. I did want to ask you, are we including the Eagles game in this?
Let's see how many games. So I have 3 picks and you have 2 so far, right? That leaves 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, 5 games. So I would say no. Or we would just have to leave one out. We would just, if you want to pick the Eagles, yeah, but we just have to leave one game out.
We can leave the Eagles out just for the
Okay.
pregame show.
Just to keep
So
it even.
I will go Titans over the Colts here. They are 2.5-point favorites. I know this is a toss-up between a lot of people today, but I look at the rest of these games as kind of a toss-up that are left after this. But nonetheless, I am going with a little bit of confidence in the Titans going forward from that big win against Cincinnati. Derrick Henry looked great in that matchup. Now, the interesting thing about this game, right? Anthony Richardson's going to start. You get Jonathan Taylor back with the new contract, and that is interesting to me. I'm interested to see what the Colts look like with JT back. But as of right now, I just have a little bit more confidence in the philosophy behind the Titans. I have a little bit more confidence in their defense and what I've seen from them so far. So I am going to go with the Titans against the Colts. But it is an interesting matchup. I am interested to see how it plays out. Because I do believe Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, that could be a dynamic duo.
Yeah.
Just want to see what it looks like first.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I'm going to stick right there in the AFC South, and I'm going to take the Houston Texans over the Atlanta Falcons on the road today, man. If they're right now, CJ Stroud looks like by far the best quarterback in this draft class. And I know it's still very early. I know Bryce Young got hurt already. But CJ Stroud looks like the real deal, dude. And he's playing with you and me down there in Houston. I like the way that DeMeco Ryans has that team playing right now. I don't trust Desmond Ridder. Kyle Pitts, I don't even know what to say about him. I watched a clip on Twitter the other day of Kyle Pitts route running, and the dude, as soon as he makes contact in 4 straight possessions or 4 straight plays, falls to the ground. Like, I don't know if he's trying to draw a flag, what his intention is, but just drops to the ground on 4 straight plays. I don't know if his shoelace was untied, whatever the hell is going on. I don't trust Ridder. I don't trust Kyle Pitts. And I don't think that they're going to be able to run the ball the way they want to against a DeMeco Ryans-led Houston Texans team. So with that said, I think CJ Stroud does just enough to go on the road and get the job done today.
Yeah, no, I'm with you all the way on that pick. I think that's one of the more interesting picks of the day because I have actually seen a few people that are locked in on the Texans, and I'm right there with you guys. I think it's actually interesting that the Texans are underdogs in this game. In reality, I think they should be favored based on the way the season's played out so far. But I do look at it very simply. It is CJ Stroud versus
Desmond
Ridder. And at the end of the day, I have no confidence in that Atlanta offense with Desmond Ridder at the helm. Didn't have confidence in them last year with Marcus Mariota at the helm, just being honest. And, you know, while the Texans, they don't have like the most notable names, they have guys that are producing at the end of the day. They have Pierce at the running back position. Nico Collins, he's been going off, man. 428 yards through 4 weeks, 3 touchdowns. He is their certified wide receiver 1 down there in Houston. So, yeah, I'm looking for them to keep it going. DeMeco Ryans, as much as we dislike the San Francisco 49ers right now, we knew what he was when he was part of that defense and what he brings to the table. Even when he was a player, he's always been that guy. So I'm with you on the Texans there today. My next one is going to be the Saints over the Patriots.
Okay.
They are 1-point underdogs against the Pats today. Really feels like both of these teams are looking for a bounce back, but in my opinion, it feels like the Patriots are spiraling downhill. That would be the difference between them and the Saints for me right now. While the Saints took a brutal loss to the Buccaneers last week, not acceptable by any means. It was Derek Carr's first game coming back from his little injury. And I still think the Saints are figuring some things out. They're getting Alvin Kamara back this week, so that should help them a little bit there. And I just expect Derek Carr to be much, much better than he was last weekend. Ultimately, comes down once again, Mac Jones, is he even the quarterback for the Patriots going forward? That's up in the air right now. He's on the hot seat. Just a lot of turmoil in the Patriots. And all of a sudden, with all the moves they made in the offseason, they bring in guys like Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah. It looks like there's nothing left on that offense. They can't even use Ramondre Stevenson right anymore. They can't run the football.
Not at all.
And that's
not
a
at all.
problem.
Yeah, I don't even know what Ezekiel Elliott's role is on that team. It's not like he's used on the goal line or in short yardage situations. I
Yeah.
have randomly he'll come in on first and second down, and then you won't see him for 9 plays in a row, and then he'll come back in on a third down, and then it doesn't make sense, man.
I never understood why they signed Ezekiel Elliott. Like, unless he is just a direct replacement if Ramondre Stevenson gets injured, they're the same running back in a sense, right?
100%.
Like, they play the same way.
Same build, same style of runner.
Yeah,
I agree, man. That game is very, very interesting to me today because Bill Belichick is coming off the worst loss he's ever been handed in his career. He's 1-3. He's back at home. There's quarterback issues.
Find ways.
And the way I look at this is if they don't respond for him today at home, if they don't find a way to beat Derek Carr in Foxborough, Bill Belichick might not be the head coach of the New England Patriots after this year.
Do you think it's because he could get fired, or do you think it's because he could just leave this team?
I think it's going to be mutual. I think it's going to be, that clock has kind of run out. It's been a couple of years since Tom's gone. Tom's even retired now. And we're just not, like I said, dude, like you're talking about the greatest coach in NFL history getting beat down, brutalized last week.
Yeah.
If they can't find a way to respond for him and win this game at home, this team just doesn't have enough, and they'll be 1-4, and then it will hit a slippery slope going from there, in my opinion. For my final pick, and this works out perfect. That's why we left the Eagles off the board, because it goes 5-5. Obviously, we're not going to get into Monday Night Football either. I'm going to leave you with that beautiful game in Denver, Colorado, and I'm going to look at Sunday Night Football. And I'm going to take the San Francisco 49ers over the Dallas Cowboys tonight. You and I have talked about this game multiple times throughout the week. And at this point, it's I hate both teams. It's almost who do you want to lose more? And when you sit back and look at it, from a further lens, the hatred for Dallas runs deeper than just a couple months of hatred for the San Francisco 49ers. And B, if Dallas finds a way to win tonight on the road, whether that be with, Dak and the offense, goes through that defense, or Micah Parsons and company shut down Brock Purdy. If Dallas wins this game, it now kind of muddies the water for the Eagles in the NFC, where now I have to take another team seriously on the path to the Super Bowl, being the Dallas Cowboys. Whereas if the Niners win this game, you kind of sit back and go, okay, it's still a 2-horse race between the Eagles and the 49ers.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there as well. I do like the pick as well, because that other game is just disgusting. I have a few questions going into this Dallas San Fran game, and I do think it is a toss up in a sense.
I think it's going to be a great
I would lean 49ers just as you've picked here. My first question: will Dak show up? That's probably the biggest question, right?
It is.
Gotta be the biggest question. My next question to follow up with that is there a world where Dak plays good and they still lose?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, because the 49ers are that good, right?
Right, because here's the thing. We have seen this Dallas Cowboys defense play on two different levels of extremes. We have seen them against the New York Giants, and we have seen them last week against the New England Patriots. And you watch just how dominant they can be. You watch how they get after the quarterback and turn teams over and etc. But you also have watched a team like the Arizona Cardinals run the ball directly at their best player, and they couldn't stop a nosebleed. How are they going to slow down Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and so on and so forth? That is something to keep an eye. It's also on the road, right? Yeah. That's where the loss came with the Cardinals, right? So it's going to be interesting. I think there is a world where Dak could play good. Good doesn't mean great. Like, I'm not like, that's fair. Like, what does good mean? Could he throw for a 245? A touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and no turnovers, but they still lose the game? 100%. You know what I mean? Like that's a good game against this defense. Doesn't equal a win.
I feel that. No, that's a great answer. And my next question would be, well, I guess it wouldn't be a question even in this sense, but I think the answer to your question, how do you stop this San Francisco offense, right? I think the answer is simple, because you're not going to stop Christian McCaffrey. Like, you may
Right.
be able to stop him in the run, but then he's going to kill you in the pass. Like, you may be able to stop Debo Samuel in the run, but then he'll kill, so on and so forth, right? But I do think the simple answer is putting pressure on Brock Purdy,
Yep.
confusing Brock Purdy, and getting Brock Purdy in trouble. He is the weak link, as we've pointed out, of that offense. And it is going to be that way going forward. And so my question is, can the Dallas pass rush get to Brock Purdy? Similar to the way the Eagles did early on against the 49ers in the NFC Championship, man. Obviously changed the game injury-wise, but the pressure was getting there.
Yeah.
They brought it, and it was getting there. So there's no reason that guys like Micah Parsons can't get to the quarterback against the San Francisco 49ers. But nonetheless, I'm with you as far as the 49ers winning this game. I do think it comes down to whoever turns over the ball the least. We know what Dak is, right? We know what he is under pressure. That's the biggest thing. He's been great this year as far as turnovers.
I think that's a big storyline in this one too. Which quarterback do we have questions about in the big moment, in the big game? Rises above it tonight. Does Brock Purdy, stay lossless in the regular season, right? Or in his career, I should say. Can Dak Prescott overcome the bright lights and go on the road and get a win against a great team? I'll tell you how Dallas can be successful on defense tonight. Moving Micah Parsons around all over the place. And I don't mean pass rush, linebacker. I'm talking what they did against the New York Jets. I'm talking right side, left side, middle of the line of scrimmage, like a basketball, just like Myles Garrett did the one game, just like he did against Zach Wilson, like just standing up like a linebacker right over the center. And which gap am I going to shoot? That way they cannot, go in with a game plan and say, okay, we know Mike is going to be predominantly on the right side of the line of scrimmage. Sometimes he'll be here, yada, yada. If you don't know where the best player is lining up, and you make Brock Purdy have to read pre-snap and make those decisions quickly, and that's how you can confuse this offense tonight, and Brock Purdy, I should say, more importantly, and get after him.
I do agree with that as well. All in short, Cowboys are going to cowboy. The 49ers will win this game. It's as simple as that sometimes, guys. But nonetheless, last game of the
who's it going to be?
Woo! It was a tough one, man, honestly. I really didn't know which way to go here. But what I did is I decided to go with the better Wilson. And I'm going to go with Russ Wilson and the Denver Broncos in this game. They're 2.5-point favorites against the New York Jets. It honestly does feel like the Jets should win this game. They performed really well against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Zach Wilson outperformed Patrick Mahomes on the big stage in front of Taylor Swift. But unfortunately, there is no Taylor Swift in the stands for Zach Wilson to impress today. So I don't think he's going to play well. I think Denver Broncos are going to have a little bit of a bounce back game. They're talking about selling their entire team right now.
Their entire
any good player on their roster is for sale, which if I'm the Eagles, I'm hopping on Justin Simmons or Patrick Surtain if they're available. But that's a whole other convo. I'm going with Russell Wilson in this game in the Denver Broncos because Russell Wilson, as much as he's been talked about of late, he's actually not played too bad this season.
No, I don't think Russ has been the problem.
Played pretty good, right? Yeah. Like over 1,000 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions on the season. He's playing really good football. That defense has just been giving everything and more to these offenses that they're playing against. I think today we'll see one of the worst offenses that they're going to play. And I think that's going to help Russ get to this W. It's going to be tough because that Jets defense is for real. Robert Saleh has command of that unit. But I do think the Broncos score a little too much for the Jets to keep up with today. So I'll go with the Broncos in that one.
It's going to be interesting, man. How much longer can the New York Jets defense keep them in games?
Yeah.
How many more turnovers can they create? How many more sacks can they get? Because at some point, Zach Wilson, and I know we saw him take, small strides on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs, right, and make that a game. And they kind of let him loose a little bit and moved them out of the side of the pocket. I think they need to continue to do that. The more confusing part to me is obviously they're going to have to throw the ball down the field to have success in this league. Yeah. But the way that they have used Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall is just a complete and utter disaster. Man. Yeah. Breece Hall on apparently no longer starting this week, but was on a pitch count basically which wasn't making sense to me. Like this dude was breaking 50-yard runs like it was his job through the first couple weeks, and you wouldn't see him for 2 more possessions after that, right? Dalvin Cook, honestly, Scotty, does not look like the Dalvin Cook we expected to see in New York when they signed him. He doesn't look good right now. I don't like the balance between the two. So they got to figure that out. Wilson has to protect the football, and can the defense keep them in it again? Because this is the defense where Russell Wilson, could struggle a little bit today, like flashback to last year, right?
Yeah.
But we'll see, man. I do like the pick. I do agree with you. I would have to go just ultimately the home team, better quarterback. That's why I'm looking at this one.
It's kind of as simple as that when you're talking about teams as bad as these are.
Right, man. But yeah, that looks about it. Any other storylines you're looking at? Obviously, the Jaguars and Bills just started the second half right now. Jags up 11-7 on their own 20 right now. But
they didn't get
any other storylines, topics you're looking at?
Jags didn't score in the red zone before half.
Yeah, no, I don't know if they went for it or the field goal missed or was blocked, but yeah, they didn't score at the end of the first half.
Classic Dougie P.
Yeah,
I think the narrative, man, as we look across the league, we have an opportunity for teams to prove kind of with the variance that we've seen in the first couple weeks so far. So we have a lot of matchups where teams can kind of take control of that variance. I'm looking at the Eagles versus the Rams. The Eagles can go up 5-0 today, take control of that narrative against a good Rams team. 49ers, right? 4-0. They can go 5-0 today, take control of that narrative against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a good team. The Ravens versus Steelers, take control of their division. So there's a lot of ways that teams can kind of bounce back and kind of secure where we were to start the season in a sense. The Bengals, right? Due for a win. Can they get a win against a dismal Arizona Cardinals team and Joshua Dobbs, right? These are the things that I'm looking at today. The Dolphins are 12.5-point favorites against the Giants. There's no way they could lose to the Giants today, right? Basically, where the league is gone, we don't know. But I think some of these things become more there comes with more surety today throughout some of the wins that I expect in this schedule. So that's what I would say about the slate today.
I agree with you. And I think just kind of to one of our takeaways on Thursday night was maybe, just maybe, some of these teams that we thought were going to be bad or bottom feeders of their division and, maybe only win 5-6 games. And that's still all a possibility. It's very early on in the season. But for example, the Houston Texans and the Atlanta Falcons, both 2-2. One of those teams is going to get to 3 wins in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, so which one kind of takes the reins there and says, okay, you know what? I'm not as bad as you originally thought I was. I thought the Houston Texans were going to be a bottom 3 team in the league. I really did.
I'm with you,
CJ Stroud is starting to make me a believer. That defense, D'Amico Ryans, you mentioned some of those role players on offense. They're putting it together, man. Same thing with Atlanta, though.
I like that you pointed out Houston because that is a team that I'm starting to just look at and I'm like, in that division, there's a chance. Like they could. Like it's not out of the realms of possibilities. And I do think.
Well, they already beat Jacksonville, right? That was their first win of the season.
Yeah, they actually. I think they dogged Jacksonville. Honestly.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing with this Texans team is they do have a chance in this division. So when you look around and you start to think who could do what, the culture seems great there in Houston. I will say that with D'Amico Ryans, it seems like he's doing things right. And I am interested to see if they can come out and beat the Falcons today because not only did they dog the Jags out 2 weeks ago, 37-17. And let me check. That was in Jacksonville. Yeah, that was in Jacksonville. They beat them 37-17. Yeah. Then the following week, they play Pittsburgh at home and beat them 30-6. So they're playing some really dominant football against some pretty decent teams. Yeah. If I do say so myself, the Jags, a team that we thought would run away with that division. All of a sudden, the Texans are starting to look more real and real. They play the Falcons this week. Then they play the Saints next week in Houston. And then they play the Panthers the following week. So you want to pull a Ryan Fitzpatrick and talk about 5-2 teams. If they can start something here today, they could look like one of those teams as well, man. And pass the Rams. Fuck the Rams. They're getting dogged today. That's on a different show.
Come hang out. Eagles pregame. We'll be recording that. That'll drop around 3 p.m. later today on the DSM Philadelphia YouTube channel. Guys, that is going to wrap things up here for our week 5 kickoff show. Don't forget, subscribe, turn on notifications, whatever you got to do to be reminded when we go live, and post a video for myself, for Scotty, for DSM. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Peace, everybody.